Hello, friends. Welcome to the Ancient Health Podcast, where East meets West. I'm your host, Dr. Chris Motley. We're going to talk about the top herbs and natural tools to help you ward off and defend against the colds and the flus this winter season. Do you yourself find that you get a cold, a sinus infection, or the flu every year? Do you remember a time when you didn't have a cold? Well, if this is you, we're going to discuss some of the telltale signs that can show that you could be a silent carrier of certain viruses that could keep getting reactivated in your body. They love to hang around. They love to hide. So let's talk about that, and let's talk about some of the top herbs that I've seen work wonders, such as Astragalus, olive leaf, elderberry, Chinese Isatis or woad, that's spelled Isatis, Woad. Also, star anise, Anise. It's basically a flowering pod. It's a spice used in Chinese medicine. It's known as Illicium. And these are the top herbs that help literally clean out most all viruses that I've seen in my office. In fact, if you're listening to this and you've ever wondered if you needed to get out of the cold and flu season without ever having a sniffle, I would recommend these herbs, because whenever I put a patient on these or their children, they usually tell me they've been around sick people and they didn't get sick. It's amazing. Also, I want to talk to you about an important subject about candida and yeast. Candida and yeast overload in the body can be a sign that your body's trying to clean up viral debris, infection debris with the yeast. So you can have yeast and candida fungus overabundance in the body, and it's trying to clean up the toxicities. So when you have this, we have to work on cleaning out the yeast. You must clean it out. If you clean it out, you're going to find that you have a lower acidity, lower chance of getting sick. It's very important in our culture around the world. So, number one, do you find yourself suspecting you have chronic viral infections? Here are some top signs. I want you to write this down. Top signs that viruses could be in your body and you don't know about it. Cold sores when you get stressed. Canker sores when you get stressed. Small sores that occur within the nostrils or in the nose, and they become hardened and sometimes scab over or bleed. Do you have clear nasal discharge randomly? Post-nasal drip. Do you get rashes around the eyes or dry eyes? Do you get random blisters or warts, even moles that have appeared out of nowhere, anywhere on the body? But specifically, have you found out that you get small skin tags and warts, any kind of scab around the throat, around the tonsils or the thyroid? Do you have tinnitus consistently, randomly? Has happened for years. Have you had plantar warts? Do you have any type of warts or blisters? Do you get random fatigue, almost basically extreme chronic fatigue syndrome, where you feel like you can't get up in the morning? You bonk, as they would say. If you have these basic types of symptoms and you say, I've got 3 of those, then it shows that your body is carrying a possible viral infection. And most of us think, well, I just get this when I'm stressed, so it could be a small virus, but it's nothing to worry about. Or every year I get chronic bronchitis or chronic sinus infections. I get allergies every season. That could be in the lungs or the sinuses. If that's the case, then your body is not just warding off just a simple virus. Viruses are very smart and sneaky. And what they do is they love to get into the cells. And what they do is they make their ways into the cells and they have different operations. Some of them work at utilizing your DNA, your genetics, to help make more of them. Some of them incorporate your proteins and your micronutrients to help propagate or help them thrive. Does that make sense? They get into your cells. And this is the crazy thing. When you study flu viruses or microbiology, what a flu virus or what a virus can do is it has a certain type of coating. It has a protein coat on it. And the protein coat basically is a coating that, if you can imagine like you wearing a coat out in the cold, and there's these small little, like the spike protein or the round proteins. If you study it, there's these small little basic protrusions or spikes that come off the coating. And what some of those do is they go to your cells. Can you imagine this? Go to your cells. They insert their spike or their protrusion into one of your receptors in your cells, like a keyhole. And they will actually allow some of their genetic material to go into your cell through the small protrusion or spike, like an injection. So your cells get basically contaminated or infected with some of these viruses. Now, there is a big argument out there that some microbiologists say, and I would love to talk with them, not because I'm trying to disprove or prove. I think it's really fascinating. They say that some viruses help clean up cellular debris. In fact, they use certain types of viruses to kill off cancer cells. So they find that not all viruses are bad. We actually need certain viruses. We actually need certain types of yeast and bacteria and certain types of fungus to actually operate. So we need certain types of viruses to keep our cells healthy. And they say that our bodies try to symbiotically live with certain viruses because those viruses help clean up certain toxins in our cells and certain parts of our body to keep us balanced, which is really weird to me, but I think it's awesome knowing that our body can do that. So when we talk about viruses, I don't want to cast negativity on it. I just want to talk about what can we do to help just cleanse what viruses we don't need and keep the ones we do. So when the viral infection or the viral genetic coding gets into your cells, they'll incorporate themselves into your DNA, like messenger RNA. And when they do that, they trick our bodies into actually reading viral protein and creating viral proteins. Proteins make their body. Proteins can make their coating. And so they make all these viral parts in your cells, like Epstein-Barr virus or cytomegalovirus and certain flu viruses like parainfluenza, and they fill up your cells. And remember, they need your cells to survive. So certain cells get infected or get injected with this material. And then when you get low in your immune, there's a signal that goes through the quorum, goes through your body. And those viral components feel the vibration. And then they start to reassemble themselves to the point where they will actually pop open your cell because they've reassembled themselves like a car. And they drive off into your bloodstream, finding another cell to infect. That's some of the basics. So we're going to do a podcast about Epstein-Barr, but Epstein-Barr is that one of their cells, one of their genetic materials gives the capability of creating over 1 million different types of viral cells from one of your cells. Like you can create 1 million of theirs. They can pop open and go infect other cells. That's why they say it's systemic. You never get rid of Epstein-Barr. You never get rid of cytomegalovirus. It is, to me, one of the, it's basically something that's not say scary to me, but it is daunting to think that you could have millions of these viral cells infecting your cells and expecting that you can get rid of that virus within a month. To me, it seems impossible, but I've seen people where their viral levels goes down to zero if you literally turn on the immune system, but really gently cleanse out the viruses consistently. So, have you had any of those symptoms? If you say yes, you found the mechanism. You know how they get in there. Many of these are like papillomaviruses, Some of those are herpetic viruses, such as the Epstein-Barr and the cytomegalovirus, and even roseolaviruses and Coxsackie viruses. They cause blisters and cold sores and canker sores. Warts on the hands, those are papillomaviruses. Do you find that those are created in your body? Now, they create these blisters, they can create these warts and such, and if you are a consistent carrier, this is the thing. You definitely could be carrying parainfluenza or flu in your body, and they could be reactivated. You could be carrying the herpes type viruses, the herpetic viruses, or the papillomaviruses, and they could be reactivated because your immune can be lowered by the seasonal flus or the seasonal colds. And when you get lowered in your resistance, the old viruses are what come to the surface and make you sick. Because if you look at some of the symptoms of all these old viruses, like the ones I just mentioned, they'll say achy stomach, diarrhea, headaches, migraines, sniffling nose, runny eyes, runny ears. They'll have all of these different types of symptoms. And we always basically attach that to just flu. No, there are certain types of virus that don't even have the word flu in them, and they can give you some of the same symptomatology. So yes, you could get a brand new flu. If it's going around, there's a lot of argument about people actually getting a brand new flu like from another person. But there are some people in microbiology who say that's not really ever, you're not getting a brand new virus all the time. You can sometimes, but they say most of the time you're actually decreasing your immune and old things are coming to the surface. So, when you have new viruses that are like bombarded, when you have things like the COVID viruses or certain types of flu viruses, yes, those things are brand new and they bombard the system. But if you notice that these old symptoms have been around in your body for a long time, you need to clean those old viruses out, the ones you don't need, so that you don't fall susceptible to the new viruses that are out there, like the new cold and flu viruses, and you won't reactivate the old ones. You'll clean your system up so your immune system can remove all the viruses that are not needed. So you must remove the old. So when we talk about the old virus, I want you guys to listen to this. If you've had a history of Epstein-Barr virus, CMV, cytomegalovirus, enterovirus, like enter the door, enterovirus, adenovirus, like adenoids, your throat, Coxsackie virus, hand, foot, mouth, known as Fifth's disease, any herpetic viruses, roseola viruses, if you had HHV or HSV, if you've had any of the papillomaviruses, dengue fever, any of these old viruses in your body, if you've had those and you've never actively tried to clean them out and you had these other signs and symptoms I mentioned, more than likely they're still hanging around. They're hanging around in your body. And they are in certain areas. So do you notice that any of the viruses, it's like the warts and the papillomavirus, are in certain areas? Do you notice that the way I just mentioned, like in certain parts, like the eyes or the ears or the throat, do you notice that? That's where the infection probably basically hides out. Now, this is a kicker. You can show that viruses will hang out in the throat, and emotionally, the throat muscles have not been given permission to actually speak your voice. This is an example. I find people that have chronic viral infections in the throat, and their throat muscles are stagnant, their lymph nodes are stagnant. Why? Because they have psychologically told their throat muscles that you don't need to speak out, you don't need to speak your voice, you need to say anything. Stay calm, stay still. Viruses know that. They'll go and infect the area because there is a want or need for somebody to speak. And so to keep them at bay, the body will allow certain infections to get in the area. That's German new medicine. So the viruses can get into these areas. So you also have to look at the emotions of it. If it's in a certain area, always relate that area with the physical action it's meant to do. Oh, I have it on my throat. Well, are you speaking what you need to speak? It's in my eyes. Are you able to see what you need to see? It's in my ears. Am I not hearing what I need to hear? It's on my feet. Well, are you moving in the direction you need to go? Truly, there is quite a bit of evidence about how this actually works in German New Medicine. You need to check it out. It's amazing. So one of the biggest things we have to realize is that there is reactivation. Reactivation is jostling the memory. So if you had a time in your life when you couldn't speak up or you couldn't go the direction you wanted to, and those viruses are in those areas because they're naturally a bit weaker, they become stagnant. They get into the cells, and then you usually adapt to them. You're adapting to those viruses that are in those areas. So they're in the area chronically. You get the small telltale signs that I mentioned. And so when you start to notice this, you have to make sure that you clean them out. Otherwise, if you are around another person that may have a brand new virus or a virus that's similar, it could reactivate your viruses. Now, this is according to frequency medicine, energetic medicine, and some Chinese medicine practitioners. Now, I love more information about this, so I want you guys to send these to me if you have any extra information. But viruses all can exist or vibrate in a certain frequency range. There are certain different devices that actually measure the frequency, the number of frequency that the vibration that the viruses give off. And they usually do it within a set number range. A lot of viruses have certain colors to their outer shell. They do. The wavelengths can be equivocated to what? To a frequency as well. So viruses sort of exist within this small frequency range. And what happens is these small frequency ranges can be in the whole culture. So if you have a virus that may be herpetic, maybe it's a parainfluenza, some scholars and some researchers say that the vibration from another person's viruses can be sent through the air, sent through the ether, and that person could be experiencing a major flu and cold symptom right now, and that frequency range of viruses could hit your body and wake up one of the basically dormant vibrational frequencies of the virus in you. So it's waking up a dormant virus within you. That's what could occur. So you're in the new flu and cold season. You're fine. You probably weren't even around somebody that had a cold or flu majorly. You're like, I was around them for like 2 minutes and I got cold or sickness. Or I was around certain people who said that they got a cold or flu later, but they didn't exhibit the signs yet. Have you had that happen? Well, there must be a vibrational pattern or an activation in that person, and it could have sent a vibrational signal out throughout the room to all the people around in that area. Here's another thought. Could the vibrational patterns in a city or vibrational patterns in a town of certain viruses or microbes send a distress signal out and reactivate some of the microbes within your body that has similar frequencies? That's the whole concept of homeopathy. Now, when I say that's like a tuning fork, there's dormant viruses that could possibly be woken up by somebody else experiencing a brand new flu. And that is the vibrational aspect of it. Another aspect is that you could get a flu or a certain type of cold virus in your body, and your immune system goes after it and tries to clean it up and kill it off. And it lowers your immune strength, and then all the old dormant viruses come to the surface and they pop open your cells and go to another cell to reinfect. Those are two ways it could happen. You could have an old virus that gets reactivated by frequencies, resonant frequencies within the air, or you could have a decrease in immune and the viruses come to the surface that's already in the body. Now, that's from research I've read and from the experience I've seen in the office. But one of the things, when you have a dormant virus come to the surface at any point, or a brand new one, here are some of my top herbals, and I've seen work wonders. It's very clean and simple. Astragalus, olive leaf supreme, elderberry, woad, or known as Chinese isotist, star anise, which is Illicium. All of these, you can take these in combo. There's one by Orthomolecular. It's known as Viracid. It has everything in it. But I have my own friend, my friend has our own tincture that has astragalus, olive leaf, and elderberry, and has a little bit of star anise in it. And you would not believe how much chronic Epstein-Barr, cold and flu, chronic congestion, warts and moles started to dry up in these people. Yes, their congestion dried up, their moles and their warts started to dry up. Why? Because moles and warts, skin tags, are all viral. The combination of the astragalus, the olive leaf, and the elderberry alone cleaned up the viruses. You'll start noticing that the skin tags fall off. The chronic congestion starts to leave. The warts start to fall off. These are nature's antivirals, and they're beautiful and they're great. You don't have to take all of them. You can find herbal combinations. But if you look at Supreme Nutrition products and you think, man, I'd love to take a couple of, maybe 2 or 3 of these, my top would be astragalus, olive leaf, elderberry, and Illicium. You literally can take Illicium every day, maybe a couple every day during the cold and flu season, and you probably won't ever get it because Illicium's used in Tamiflu. That's what they use, is Tamiflu uses Illicium. They buy up most of the world's star anise to make Tamiflu. These herbs is what you need to have in your toolkit. If you really want to keep things from coming on you, astragalus raises the immune. It's a Chinese herbs that raise immunes without fail. Olive leaf is an antioxidant. It helps clean up strep, staph, and viruses. Illicium helps clean up most viruses. Elderberry is a huge antiviral and immune booster. Woad is also a huge Chinese medicine antiviral. These are the herbs that I recommend you using. Now, one of the things I wanted to discuss with you is going to be, we want to make sure that we clean up yeast. So I just want to reiterate the importance of knowing how much certain viral and microbe components can be part of your natural body and why it's so hard to get rid of the infections. Do you see how much they can get into your body and stay in your system? And we have a hard time getting our immune system up, keeping the colds and flus out of our body. The mechanism is just very intriguing to me. Now, one of the things I do want to touch base with on this podcast is I want to talk about the presence of yeast. In my opinion, it is very hard to increase your immune function and kill off any virus if there's too much fungus, yeast, or candida in the body. They naturally can raise the pH. You want to make sure that your pH balance is optimal so that you can actually clean up all the debris if possible. But whenever yeast or fungus are in the body, it can make your body a bit more acidic than it needs to, and your immune function can be very challenged. Yeast, candida, certain fungus are there to help clean up that debris. And remember, there is viral debris. Viruses are in cells and they're called endotoxins. They can create many types of viral toxins. Viral toxins can get into the cell. They can get outside the cell. And there's reports of how bad these viral toxins basically kill off and injure your immune system. Now, some microbiologists say that you can have certain types of funguses and microbiomes that actually help you with handling this situation. But if you overgrow yeast and candida because of our natural diets, which includes refined sugars, refined sweeteners, starches such as potato starch, corn starch, soy starch, you hear me talk about the starches, any type of seed oils that actually decrease cellular metabolism, anytime you increase the need for yeast or candida growth, your body is going to change its acidity, and you're going to find more ethanol, more alcohol in the system from the yeast. That's what it's going to be producing. You'll find more acetaldehyde. You'll find more of these toxins from the fungus. And literally, mold, yeast, and fungal toxins can give your body the susceptibility to have food allergies, cold allergies, airborne allergies, all these types of allergens in the body. So you have the perfect storm if you're eating too much sugars, you're drinking too much sugary juices or colas, if you're eating too much dairy with cold, damp sweetness, if you are eating too much foods with preservatives, eating too much gluten and wheat, if you're eating too much of these things, you are setting up your system to have this growth of fungus, yeast, candida, and then the viruses basically can do what they want. Because you have a weakened immune system. They can go and jump out the cell and go somewhere else and not worry about it. The reason I stress this is because if you want your top herbal toolkit for viruses to work, I'm going to have to add in something for the yeast. So for me, to help with any mold, fungus, or yeast, I love Chinese skullcap. It's known as Scutelleria. Scutellaria, Scutelleria supreme, and or melia supreme, melia, melia supreme, which is also known as neem in Ayurvedic circles. Scutelleria and melia, I've seen a combination of just one of those every day. Sometimes I do one of each in the morning and night. Clean out the yeast and candida fungus. The white coating of the fungus and yeast comes off the tongue. The smelly feet and armpits start to go away. You start to poop out more mucus and foamy bowel movements because you're getting rid of that fungus and yeast. I've seen this do wonders. You don't want to do it so much where you just feel sick and bloated and nauseous. You just want to do it at a nice, easy pace. But I often recommend with my patients that when they're usually trying to keep their body strong for the cold and flu season is to throw in either Scutelleria or melia to clean out the mold and fungus and yeast. In fact, if you are having a hard time keeping the colds and flus and all those things out, out of distance and out of reach, then you need to check for yeast and candida. Use these two. Also in my office, what I do is I check patients and individuals for probiotics. I check them to see which probiotic they need, like lactobacillus or bifidobacteriums. I try to find the different strands. Now, it's very hard to find single-stranded probiotics. You can find them in certain, locations and on the net, but they're pretty expensive. But as long as you could possibly look into if you need probiotics. Now, you can do a Viome test, Viome. There's silver fern. Silver fern has great information and great digestive supplements. I use some of silver fern. I use their reflux. I use their GI repair. They have really good silver fern. But if you look into that and you test for the probiotics you need in your body, start really paying attention. If you get the probiotics in there, it'll start naturally cleaning out the yeast as well. You do that, you reduce the sugars, you start doing more of a low inflammatory diet. It seems like a lot, but I'm just telling my patients, reduce your sugars, do more of an anti-inflammatory diet, do something more of like a paleo diet, just meat, vegetables, and low sugar fruits. Find the right probiotic. Then I sometimes, if they can't do a really strong keto diet, I tell them to look into organ meat pills like from Heart and Soil or Ancestral Supplements. There's some good brands out there, but I usually find and muscle test the type of organ meats they need, whether it's like the thymus or the spleen or the lungs. I find that and I get them that capsule, maybe 2 or 3 capsules a day of that. Start working on the yeast with the Scutelleria or the melia, and then I give them the herbs for the viruses, and I'm telling you, their virus stuff starts to go away. I want you to look into this. You'll see it in the show notes. And I want to make sure that with this, you see that there is a simple toolkit. You don't have to do every single herb I mentioned. Can it work for kids? Yes. You can get the tinctures. Go to Hawaiian Farm. Hawaiian, Pharm. They have great organic, even alcohol-free tinctures. You can do that and look at their suggestions and use drops in juice, like low sugar juice for your kids, and put, like a few of these different herbals in these juices and have them drink it. And I'm telling you, it'll keep them nice and healthy. Don't overdo it. Do maybe 2 or 3 drops of each, maybe 4 or 5, just depending on the size of the child. If you do that, you can see them stay healthy. I do it with my family members, my young ones in my family. They literally do not get sick. Some of them, I just flush the yeast out and it keeps them from ever getting viral colds. It's really amazing. So I want you guys to take this to heart. Let's look at this. These are my top viral cold flu toolkit recommendations. But remember, it's not only going after them, but it's also increasing your immune and honestly increasing your digestive and GI health with probiotics, cleaning out the yeast, and really fortifying the gut system. Guys, if you like this kind of information, let me know. We are going to discuss this in the membership. I always finish with this because we put it out there and let the members watch this, and we jump on a Q&A every single week, and we discuss it. So if you guys want to go further and deeper, look at the show notes, and there's going to be a link for the membership if you're ever interested. I jump on there almost every single week and do a live Q&A with my members. I love doing it. We talk about even more deep information like frequencies and vibrational patterns of infections. I think it's really cool. So if you guys like it, just like and subscribe, send it to people you know that loves this kind of information, and hit the bell that gives you a remembrance or a memo that anytime a new podcast comes out, it reminds you. All right? So guys, I hope you have a blessed day. Let me know what you think about this. Until next time, talk soon.